Welcome to the Faster, Easier, Better show with your hosts Lee Silber and Ellen Goodwin.
Welcome to another episode of the Faster, Easier, Better show. I'm your co-host Ellen Goodwin, and Lee is not with me today, but we do have a special guest. We have a special episode, and today I'm joined by Grace Marshall. Hi, Grace.
Hi, Ellen.
So Grace is the author of the award-winning How to Be Really Productive. She is known for her refreshingly human approach to productivity. She's been featured in The Guardian, Forbes, and HuffPost, and her work as a productivity ninja with global training company Think Productive has helped thousands of people to replace stress, overwhelm, and frustration with success, sanity, and satisfaction. Her new book, Struggle, The Surprising Truth, Beauty, and Opportunity Hidden in Life's Shittier Moments, is out in April, and that is why we are talking today. So Grace,
I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I'm so excited to have you here as well. As I mentioned when we were talking, my book is highlighted. I've got little Post-it notes. I'm like so excited to talk about your book. So Struggle. Tell me, like, where did the idea come from? When did this show up?
So it was back in 2018 that I started to have the idea. It wasn't until 2020 that I realized this is the perfect year to write it. But I think even in 2018, we were experiencing some shitty moments. Yeah, definitely. In wider society, in life, in politics, but also in work. And so in the kind of work that I do, where I'm helping people with their productivity, often the words "I'm struggling" are seen as the opposite of productivity, the opposite of being productive. But I don't think that tells the full picture of struggle, and it also doesn't tell the full picture of productivity. So I started wanting to dive in deeper to go, well, actually, what if struggle isn't a sign that everything's gone wrong, or that it's a sign of failure or a sign of weakness or something's wrong with us? What if actually struggle can also be the birthplace of some of our best work?
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes falling apart is actually coming together.
Yeah.
And we forget that. We absolutely forget that. And I love that you have brought that to the forefront, because we do think we have to get it perfect, and we don't.
Mm.
And I think your book definitely, it does. I had a lot of reflection going through it, going, oh yeah, just when you think it's falling apart, it's really all coming together. So
yeah.
And your book comes out, so I don't forget. You can get it through Amazon right now, but officially it launches the Kindle launches today, which is the 12th, and then tomorrow you can get the paperback. So, and I highly recommend you do it. So, I'm just going to go start with some of the Post-it notes I have, and I don't think they're real Post-it notes, actually. So no trademark issues here. On page 62, and I love this quote: "What if the shitty moment is precisely where life happens?" And you talk about that we want everything to be perfect, but what if it, life is really, the stories, the growth, that everything comes from when stuff isn't good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think sometimes we see the shitty moment as the interruption, as the, okay, this is happening. Okay, I have to put everything on pause again. Wait until this is over, and then I'll get on with what I want life to look like, or what I want the work to look like. But yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, what if this is the life? What if this shitty moment right here is where I can show up, where I can do my best work? And when we think that, then we change how we see the moment, but also we change how we show up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because otherwise this isn't us. We're an imposter in that moment, but we'll be our real self later. But this is, this isn't me. And I think that's a really interesting point to think about, because you never get together with your friends. Well, when we could get together with our friends, and we will do it again, but we never get together and we go, I had a perfect day. We tell the stories of the conflict, and no movies, no books, nothing is a story about a lovely day. Here it is. I had a lovely day.
Absolutely. Like the whole point of the story is like, oh, something's happening, and now this is where it gets interesting.
Exactly. And while we see that in movies and books and stories we hear from, we don't think about it in our own life. That, this is our story of our life. We get to do the hero's journey over and over and over every day, except we don't want it. we just want the pretty parts.
And we want the glory at the end of the battle without the battle.
Exactly. You don't want to gird your loins. You just want to like, hey, let's have the banquet at the end.
Yeah.
And we don't do that. And I think that your book just brings that out so well. And it's all the stuff that we've pushed back and put in the cupboard and lock the door, but just to be open about it, that, I am struggling with this. You talk about one of your friends who with cancer, living with cancer and not battling, just living. And this is, it is his reality, and why not be in it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sometimes I've heard this a lot actually in the past year with COVID. There's a lot of conversations about like when this is over, when we go back to normal. And actually, what's interesting is like how, yes, it's great to see light at the end of the tunnel, but actually, what about right now? What about right here in the middle of the tunnel? What does life look like right now? And I think sometimes we can put life on hold because we think we're not in the right place yet.
Right.
But if we shift it around to start looking at right now, it's like, do you know what? Yes, I can't hug my friends right now, but we can still do friendship.
Yes.
We can still do community. It looks different, but we can still do it.
Yes, exactly. And it is, yesterday I saw on one of the social media, a woman I know, instead of going, hey, I'm going to wait until we get back. She's like, yeah, I've lost 60 pounds. And I'm like, well, I know where it went. But I was super impressed that, rather than wait, she saw the opportunity. She was one of those people that had her whole career had changed because of the occupation she had, and it just wasn't available. She's in theater.
Yeah.
And she looked at not when it ends, but where I am now. And I've got the time. I've got, healthy meals, working out. And I'm like,
so sometimes that gives, it's finding, actually, this gives me the perfect opportunity to do what I've always wanted to do. And then sometimes it's a different kind of opportunity. It's like, if the door has closed to me in terms of what I would love to do, it makes us look somewhere else. It makes us go, well, okay, what doors are open to me? And we could end up going through doors that we completely did not intend to. Like it was something that we didn't see. It's an opportunity that we wouldn't have considered, but because of certain opportunities not being available to us, because of like a setback or an obstacle, we then go, okay, well, how else? What else can I do? Or how else can I do it? And then sometimes it's those opportunities that with hindsight, we go, oh, that was genius. But in the moment, it's just like, well, I can't do anything else. So I kind of have to.
Yes, absolutely. And I always think like if the door shuts and you can't, there's windows, and that's part of it. Don't limit yourself to a door. You need a portal of some sort. It's just a little reframing, but you're absolutely right. We don't see the things until we're forced to see them. And I know you cover that in the book, and it's kind of mind blowing where you're like, oh yeah, we don't have to follow the path that everyone thinks we do. When something bad like this happens, you can create your own world.
Actually, if we think about it, that's the story of innovation, right? Innovation very rarely comes from, a linear kind of, I'll just make things better. It comes from, I've hit a wall, I've hit an obstacle, or there's something unexpected that's happened. But in that kind of breaking of the status quo, there's a freedom, there's something else released. So I love that you mentioned Post-it notes earlier, because that's a prime example.
Yes.
So the Post-it note was developed by someone who was looking to develop a super strong adhesive for use in the aircraft industry, I think it was. And instead he developed this kind of weak adhesive, and then later on found a use for it. So, and we still use it to this day.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it is you walk through the store, like the stationery store, the, Target, and there's like a whole section of every kind of Post-it notes. And I have like Post-it note envy. I like have like stacks of them.
Love it.
I do. I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, what would our world be like without them? You would never, here, let me get a piece of paper and a piece of tape. Where's the tape where's the tape? I don't know. So, the guy should have gotten a Nobel Prize. So, exactly. The whole like take lemons and make lemonade, for lack of a better concise thing. But it is finding the nugget in the struggle.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think about, it's like my life's shittier moments. When you you hit the wall and you're, what am I going to do? I know we talked about the book I wrote, and I had written the whole book, and I had gone through all my beta readers and all this. And one of them said, well, I really hate the title. And I'm like, oh, and then someone else said it too. And I'm like, okay, well, I was going to publish it. And all of a sudden, and then, there was the couple weeks of just in the doldrums. You talk about that, just in like, what happens now? What, do I just, okay, I don't have a title. I'm going to have to change everything. And then it came to me, came up with a title that I loved and other people loved. And I wouldn't have come up with that. I was just so set on the one I had. I was like, this is good. And then when it was gone, I was like, so you know what? If that's the worst thing in my life, I'm doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had a similar thing. Like growing up, when I was a child, I was always the straight A student. So I was used to knowing what people wanted from me and delivering it. And then when I went into the workplace, I ended up working in quite a small sort of startup type culture. And actually, if I was in a larger company, I probably would have gone unnoticed. I probably would have just kind of coasted along, not feeling quite like I fit in, not really doing my best, but doing enough to be able to get by. But because I was in this kind of quite cutting culture, what I realized was I was in the wrong job. But it took a while to get there, because I was in this place of like, I can do anything, I can. So it was like, if I wasn't hitting the marks, like, right, tell me how to do this better. I can do this better. But actually, when it came to it, I was in the wrong job. But being in that environment where it was cutting and it was painfully obvious that I was in the wrong job, meant that I left, and I embarked on a completely different career. Whereas if I was in a place where it wasn't quite feeling right, but I could get by, I could have been stuck there for years.
Yes. So the bad is the very good.
Yeah. So sometimes when things go wrong, it's painful. And I think it's important to notice that and to kind of recognize that. But then it's also then recognizing, okay, yes, it's painful. And what else can it be? So it's, yes, it's painful. And it means I get to look at another title, or I get to consider another job, and and I get to look for another door, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You just said, probably without even processing, the whole improv thing. Yes, this is bad. And, yes. And what do I get to do? Yes, I'm in this situation and I have this opportunity. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that, especially when we're right in the middle of it, and all the emotions are firing, and we're so black and white with color, with our emotions. It's either this or this. There's no gray. And I think if anything, we need to be in the gray more often.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I think biologically or neurologically, what happens when we're in struggle, we tend to go to fight or flight. So when we're in that mode, we're basically looking, that's, our brain thinks in binaries. It looks for what is safe and what is a threat. Who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what's right, what's wrong. And we go to those binaries. And in that space, there is, like you say, no space for gray. There's also no space for other colors. It's just black and white.
Yeah, it's very, very boring.
Yeah.
But we need the colors.
Exactly. So the colors is where we can see more, because the whole function of fight or flight is just to keep you safe. It's like, in that moment, is this a danger that I need to run away from, or is this a danger I need to fight and eliminate? Those are the only options. So it gives no options for creativity, for discovery, for relationship building or bridge building. So all the other things that we humans do really well, there's no space for that in that black and white thinking. So what we need to do is kind of almost come out of that. And the good way of doing that is by activating curiosity, because curiosity is basically the antidote to fear. So rather than going, something's happening and it's a threat, it's going, okay, what is this actually? What is this? And what could it be? What am I making it to mean? And what else could it mean? What looks like anger from somebody could actually be confusion.
Right.
Right. And so, actually stepping away from that fight or flight and that fear response, and start to get kind of curious to go, I wonder what's going on there. Can then start to give us more perspective. So it actually widens our perspective, because our fight and flight basically has a narrow perspective. You get tunnel vision, because it's just like, look for the weak spot in your opponent, or look for the way out, the escape route. That's all it's looking for. Whereas, when you activate curiosity, you can just see so much more. You can see a wider ground, and then you're in a much better place to start innovating, to start bridge building, relationship building, or creating, and all those good things.
Absolutely. And I know in the book you talked about you and your husband, like with arguments, and like now asking, what does this feel like to you? Or what would be, what's the exact words? What would this?
So one brilliant question we learned to ask each other is, what's the most important thing about this for you?
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's so simple when you think about it, but it's something that we often sort of overlook. So we're arguing about, let's say, for example, I think the example I talk about in the book is, we were arguing about holidays. And I think what he wanted was just to be able to spot a good deal and book it and go for it. Whereas what I wanted was, actually, I'm really happy for you to book it, but I don't want to be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to catch an early flight. Like, that is not my idea of a holiday. I'm going to end up catching a cold and being sick, and the kids are going to be grumpy as well. That's just not a good start to a holiday. But when we started off that argument, it was just about, I want to be able to just book a holiday, and I'm going, but I want you to be able to talk to me first, and we looked like we were at an impasse. But when we asked the question, what's important to you and what's important to me, then we were able to both say what's important to us, and both be heard in what's important, and then to be able to then go, okay, so how do we work something out that brings both of those perspectives together?
I love that. What is important to me? No, to you. Say it again. What's the most important thing about this for you? I love that. Because I can see where, we do jump to ideas. My husband did the other day. He goes, what if we just changed these towels in the bathroom? And I'm like, I had this immediate, and again, small detail, but it was like this immediate, like, no. And then, if we'd asked that question, I think, we both have, different perspectives. I think his was like, well, we could get these, we could get towels somewhere. He wanted to get these fluffy towels. And I was all about, I like the color.
So it was like, so if the new fluffy towels are available in that color, then everybody wins.
Exactly. Okay, well, I know what we're discussing over dinner tonight.
But that kind of plays into our work conversations as well, though, doesn't it? It's like, how often do we end up in that state of conflict with somebody that we're working with, and it feels like you're at an impasse, it feels like you want different things. But then when you change that conversation, so when you start to have that conversation about what's really important to you here, and also sometimes even just naming the fear, to go, well, my fear is this, and somebody else, well, but my fear is this, and That's where you're coming from.
Yeah, because we always think people are coming from the same place we are, and they aren't. They aren't. And that's an important thing to remember. And I know I should have it tattooed on my hand so I can just go, oh, you're coming from a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was an excellent takeaway from everything. And then there was one I wanted to be really good about, like I told you, like highlighting, and I'm looking through my book right now. But I also loved, what mess do you get to play with today? Yeah.
Yeah.
What mess? Oh, I know. It was Peter Drucker. There is surely nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency what should not be done at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because sometimes we can equate productivity to efficiency and think it's just about getting as much stuff done as quickly as possible. And that's when we're being really productive. But when we do that, we have that narrow focus again. And so, then we stop asking, when we stop to ask, like, hang on a minute, am I just being really efficient about doing what I shouldn't be doing?
Right. And that's pretty funny, because we talk, our podcast, we talk about productivity and efficiency. But I do think it's so important. Yeah, it's great if I can do this quickly, but what if I didn't have to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And particularly when we're struggling with something that is hard work, that's either really complex, really complicated, or just it's hard work because it's something new that we haven't done before. So writing a book is a really good example. When you're struggling to get the book written, if what you're aiming for is efficiency, you're far more likely to go, I'm going to check some emails, I'm going to reply to some quick things, I'm going to do some quick wins, because that means I'm moving forward, I'm making progress.
Right.
And that's
boxes.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's like prime procrastination, because what you really need to be doing is sitting there writing your book.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, look how productive I am. I'm productively procrastinating. No, you're not. You're just procrastinating. No one needs those emails. No one.
Yeah. Or you get involved in like conversations that you shouldn't be. So if you've been copied in on a conversation, and if you leave them to it, they'll probably work it out. But you go, oh no, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to get involved there.
I've got an opinion and everyone should know it.
Yeah, exactly. And all I'm really doing is deflecting attention away from the thing that feels really hard.
Exactly. And it is the hard thing. And I've started doing, just calling things out. This is hard. That's okay. Much the same you would do it like a 3-year-old. Yeah, it is hard to do this. And I know you talk about that in the book, that we do a disservice to our kids when we, I'll help you. I'll do it. Yeah, just things are going to be hard, and it carries through to adulthood. This is hard. So, you know what? Let me go check the refrigerator and see if there's something I can go eat. Let me do this. The fridge fairies, did they show up? Because they never do, but I always keep hoping. But it is the hard stuff we do. I don't want to do it. And I think if we tell ourselves, it's okay, this is hard, but it's not always going to be hard.
Yeah, because if we tell ourselves that it shouldn't be hard, then we make it harder. We take something which feels like something's gone wrong, and we go, oh, there's something wrong with me. And so that makes it infinitely harder. And I think that's the realization I came to in that parenting example, is if what I say to my kids is, here, it's not that hard, let me do it for you, then what they hear is, it shouldn't be this hard. So maybe there's something wrong with me if I'm struggling with it. So what they need to hear from me more than let me do it for you is, like you said, this is hard and it's okay, we can do hard things. That's the thing, is that, that's a mantra that comes from Glennon Doyle, who's a wonderful writer, but that's a mantra that I keep repeating to myself, like, we can do hard things, and that's what they need to hear, and then let me do it for you.
Right. And I think we get that too as adults. And we, like if we're working with someone and they're like, I don't get this. Well, let me do it. And you should not be doing it. That's what you have this person for. Let them learn how to do it. Yes, it is hard. I'll show you this time. And then, if you need help next time, Look it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the classic thing of like, that's the classic thing of what stops people from delegating, right? It's like, oh, it's quicker for me to do it myself than to show them how and let them get it wrong and let them work it out for themselves. It's just quicker for me to do it myself. But if you think, it's quicker for me to tie a 3-year-old's shoelaces, it probably is. But if that 3-year-old never learns how to tie their shoelaces and I'm still tying their shoelaces when they're 30,
that's an
then
issue.
that's an issue. Exactly. Yeah. Think of all the time that's taken me to do that.
Yes. And we don't do that. We don't think that those terms, that if I show them 3 times and they have it, then I don't have to do it 300 times.
That's it. Or even sometimes I'm not going to give you the answer right now. You go and work it out. So I think you can work this out. Take this amount of time. If you still haven't worked it out by this time, come back to me. And even sometimes that means they'll work it out because their initial go-to might be, do you know what, I'm going to ask you because that's the quickest route to getting an answer. And if I think, like going back to productivity, if I think I'm being measured, my performance is being measured on speed, how quickly can I get things done, then my quickest route to achieving that is by asking you the question.
Right.
But if we change what we measure and when we change what we celebrate and the conversations that we have from like, how quickly can you get this done to what are you learning, for example, then we shift the focus onto, the whole point here isn't just to deliver quickly, it's to develop my competency or my capacity and to develop my skills and to learn how to do it rather than just to get the quickest answer.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful definition and one that we should all take to heart, whether we're working on our own or we're working in a business. Look at what you're measuring and what you're learning. I think that's perfect. That's a perfect example. So, is there before we wrap everything up, is there anything else you want to share about the book?
I think when you mentioned about productivity, there was also a bit where I talk in the book, and it's the bit where I talk about the art of letting your work breathe. So I wonder if that was that was kind of one of the things that you maybe had a post-it note on.
Oh, I'm sure.
Let's see who finds it quickest.
And I also loved frustration is not an interruption at your process. Frustration is the process.
Yeah, that's a quote from Liz Gilbert. Yeah, absolutely. And and I love that. And the same thing with like irritants. So one of my friends is a chemist, and she reminded me, it's like, Grace, you realize a catalyst is essentially an irritant. I was like, oh yeah.
That's an interesting. It's true.
It's true, right?
Yes.
Yes. So next time something's like, if there's something that's irritating you right now, rather than going, oh, that's so inconvenient, and what if this is a catalyst? What could this be a catalyst for, or what could be a catalyst to? So again, it's kind of looking for, rather than trying to look away from it to go, I wish this was over and I wish this didn't exist. It's like, what information can I get from this? Or what is this telling me? What can I learn in this situation? And honestly, like the most irritating things that have happened to me in my business, like, when we've had a tire kicker, someone who just comes and like tests out all your processes just to waste your time. You're like, why did that just happen? When you've got maybe a client that has been pushing boundaries or completely overstepped boundaries. Those are they feel irritating, but they give me good information because they then help me to refine, okay, how do I define my boundaries more clearly? Right. How do I define my processes better? Like, what does this tell me about your client and my not ideal client? Exactly. And I have one other quote that I thought was fantastic, and it was about being out of your depth. So being out of your depth is exactly the conditions that call us to grow, to stretch, to rise, to be brave, to emerge anew. And I think that's awesome, because if we don't stretch, if we just stay where we are, we're stagnant and we don't grow. And it's scary and hard to stretch. Yeah. But it just brings in everything we've talked about. Absolutely. It's hard. You're
obviously dealing with some sort of catalyst, what is important to me. It all comes in when we stretch.
Yeah. So one of my good friends, Jenny, often says to me, there's no comfort in the stretch zone, and there's no stretch in the comfort zone.
I love that. And I'm probably going to borrow it.
Yeah. So Jenny Ainsworth is the person who said it to me. But it's recognizing, okay, this is uncomfortable, not because I'm in the wrong place, but because I'm in the right place for that sense of stretch, for that new thing. I think particularly at the moment when there's so much uncertainty around us, that's almost what we need from our leaders, right?
Yes.
So whether that's our country leaders, our company leaders, we need people who are willing to go, yes, this is hard. And yes, we don't have all the answers. And this is what we're going to do about it. We need those kind of leaders much more than we need leaders who go, I know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. So Grace, tell everyone where they can find you, and, hey, you got a book coming out. So tell us. And I'll also put this in the show notes as well. So,
Sure thing. So gracemarshall.com is where you can find me, and strugglethebook.com is where you can find the book and all the links for pre-ordering and ordering. But also when you go to strugglethebook.com, once you've ordered the book, you can also claim your free ticket to the Struggle Conversation, which is kind of a more intimate, deep dive conversation with me and some special guests. And we're going to do that a couple of weeks after the book's launched. So you've got a couple of weeks to get the book, read it, and then we can dive into conversation together.
Super exciting. I'm going to be on I'm just going to be watching, and I'm so excited for it. So definitely get the book and read it, highlight it, have your Post-it notes ready, because I think you're going to take a lot of notes. You're going to want to highlight things and take it to heart, because, we're all in a struggle of our own. And unfortunately, it's not like it's a bad thing. We're going to grow from the struggle. And I love that. So as always, be sure and follow, like, and review, and be with us next week for another episode of the Faster, Easier, Better Show.